Hello, and welcome back to What's the Word Windsor. I'm your host, Maddie Strassheim, and today we are here with Deputy Town Manager Eric Lucas, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about capital improvement projects and the capital improvement plan. Eric, how are you today? Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to be back hosting the podcast. So
it's nice to have you back.
So we're just going to talk a little bit about the capital improvement plan. Can you explain to our audience what the capital improvement plan is, or kind of what CIP is? Because that's what we refer to it.
Sure, you're correct. We do refer to capital improvement plan as CIP. It is a 5-year rolling capital plan that is really focused on high kind of maintenance and ensuring that our assets throughout town, whether that be a road, bridge, parks, those kind of high-use amenities are being improved or being replaced as they begin to age out. So it's a process that occurs every year in the budget. Staff is working on a 5-year plan all the time, and when we enter 1 year, then there's another year that's added on the backside, and that's how we ensure that Windsor has quality roads and other assets to ensure that our community is running well and running safe. A CIP is funded by a variety of revenue sources. The big one is sales tax. So we have a 3% sales tax. The town board typically and historically has allocated about 60% of that sales tax revenue to go towards operation and 40% to go towards capital. They gave us a little bit of flexibility with a resolution last year, so in 2026 it is 61% towards operation and 39% towards capital. That's the major driver and the major funder of all the capital projects. We also have things like construction use tax, oil and gas royalties. We may receive grants like we did with the Crossroads and
Colorado
Boulevard. Yeah, I want to say 392, but it's Colorado Boulevard. So we received a grant there. So all of that creates this diversified funding revenue. And then the other piece is to remember the enterprise funds like our utility funds, water, sewer, stormwater, and then the rec center. They're not getting those sales tax dollars. They're using their own revenues through user fees to pay for funding for capital projects.
So you kind of touched a little bit on the budget plan. We know that kind of takes place every year. When does the budget plan get decided, and how do those projects end up on the budget?
Sure. So staff begins their budget process, whether that's operations or capital. And today, since we're talking about capital, they start that in April. It's due to the town manager's office and the finance department by the beginning of July. And that's where the process really kind of, the rubber meets the road, so to speak, where all the questions begin to formulate between the different departments and all the different asks. The town manager's office and finance department meets with every department in August. Ultimately, that's followed in terms of capital with a presentation to town board. Actually looked for 2027. September 21st is the planned meeting with the town board, and that's their first. They're being the elected official. That's their first glance at all the projects that are being proposed and how we propose to fund them, and then it kind of goes from there. So the board will have some back and forth with staff, and you might have a project that gets pushed given things that might be happening in terms of revenues that are coming in or revenues that are not, or more high priority projects that come up throughout the process, and so something can get bumped forward or bumped back. Ultimately, whatever is like for example the 27 projects, those would get approved in a budget approval process in late November of this year.
Okay, and can some projects kind of roll over into other years?
They can, depending on a variety of things. So, for example, if a project is what I'll call shovel ready, they may start and get bid, for example, a road overlay where we're maybe overlaying asphalt on top of asphalt, or we're doing some patching work. Those are typically getting bid in December or January, and then those happen throughout that summer. There might be a project, for example, if we're building a park where we may be in design in the beginning part of the year, and we don't actually break ground and begin build until later in the year. And if winter hits and we haven't completed, then it can get rolled over into the next year. But that money is carried forward in the budget process.
And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but can you explain the difference between a project that is in design versus a project that's in construction?
Sure. So there are really large projects that may be multi-million-dollar projects that would also take many years. And an example would be the 392 expansion and bridge project that we've been putting in for grants for several years with the federal government, unsuccessfully, but we'll eventually get there. As we're working towards the completion of or having that project shovel ready, we may be spending a couple of $1 million in design every year until we get to 100% design documents, and then eventually have the money to build that project. So that's really the difference. Is there may be long-term projects that we're having to design to 30%, 60%, and then 90% design before we're actually ready to build the project.
And during that construction season, we have a lot of projects that are considered high impact. Can you kind of go into and explain what a high impact project is?
Sure. High impact projects are projects that are going to significantly impact the public, whether that be the traveling public. So, for example, if we're doing a roundabout, this year we have the Crossroads roundabout at Crossroads and Colorado Boulevard, that we know that that's a high impact. There's a lot of cars, a lot of people that go through that area. So we're featuring that as a high impact because it's truly going to impact people throughout the whole project. So it really is, are we going to impact the traveling public? Are we going to impact people with rates, those kind of things? So, for example, the wastewater treatment plant is a big impact because in order to pay for that project, we are going to have to raise rates significantly, which is an impact to our users.
And so it's kind of our job as a whole town. All of the departments kind of impact those high impact projects, especially communications, as we have to communicate all the things to the public, especially if it's traffic impacts or, like you said, the rate increases. So it's kind of like a whole team effort when it comes to high impact areas.
That is very true.
So how does the community benefit from CIP projects?
The big benefit is quality of life. So those may be things that we're building that are new. So, for example, if we're building a new park or a new road, a new bridge, a new trail, things like that. So quality of life. And then the other is ensuring that our assets that we have in place today are being kept up or being replaced as their lifespan has kind of reached maturity, to ensure that we don't have roads that are filled with potholes or dangerous things that we just haven't taken care of because we haven't funded them. So that really is, it's quality of life and then maintenance of the overall system.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've got a lot of assets in town.
We do, especially as we've grown.
Yes, we want to just keep them running.
Sure.
If residents are interested in providing input on projects, how and when can they do that?
I would honestly tell you they could do it all year long. So, we're in March now, about to begin the budget process with different departments. So an opportunity for people and residents to reach out to a specific department. They could do that through an advisory board. They could reach out to the department director via email or phone call. They could also come to a town board meeting and just in a public comment opportunity, let us know. And then the other thing is, as we get into budget, the actual budget season, which really for the public and for the board begins in September, is come to public meetings, come to the work sessions where we talk about operations, or we talk about staffing, or we talk about capital improvement, and give the board your feedback.
Yeah, and I'm sure they really appreciate it too.
They do. The more input they can get from citizens, the better directions we're able to give staff.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Eric,
Thanks
and
for
explaining all about CIP. I know it's kind of like a little bit of a confusing topic.
It's a lot of fun for me because you get to obviously see what we're going to replace every year and watch the community grow. I've been in Windsor for about 10 years now, and it's been really fun to watch the amount of effort that the staff and the board and the residents put into ensuring that we have a wonderful place to live.
We're going to toss it over to Julia, who's going to be interviewing some of our project managers for some of our capital improvement plan projects over the summer. She's going to be interviewing Chris Claymore, our wastewater superintendent.
Hi, I'm Julia Bartman. I am the Communications and Engagement Supervisor for the town of Windsor, and welcome to a very special edition of What's the Word Windsor. Today we're going to be talking to several different CIP project managers. first, I'm joined by Chris Claymore, the Wastewater Services Superintendent. Chris, welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. You ready to jump into some of these questions?
You bet.
All right, awesome. So the two projects that you're dealing with for CIP in 2026 is the wastewater treatment facility expansion and the Headworks construction project that's underway right now. You recently filled the shoes of Dennis Markham, our former wastewater systems superintendent, who was our podcast guest last September. What has it been like jumping into the role at the heels of such massive projects?
It's been a little overwhelming and exciting all at the same time. The project is well on its way, so I just need to do a lot of catch up to make sure that I understand what's going on throughout the facility.
Yeah, totally. And these two projects are a super long time coming. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Headworks project, the details on that, and how it folds into the overall wastewater treatment facility expansion?
Yeah, so the Headworks facility is about 3/4 of the way done. We're hoping to start it in May or June of this year. And the big part of the Headworks is that you kind of treat it like a train station. So if you have a bunch of trains that you need to get people on, you have to have a station big enough. So we just need to have a facility big enough to bring in the water to treat it throughout the rest of the facility.
And how will that fold into the overall wastewater treatment facility expansion? So where does Headworks kind of play?
So Headworks is the first. It's kind of called pre-treatment too. So it's the first stop on the way throughout the rest of the facility. It removes the bigger objects and grit and just kind of gets everything ready to be treated later down.
And there's a lot to talk about. These facility expansions, there's been a lot of public interest lately. Can you talk about why these facility expansions need to happen right now? And can you explain a little bit more why that is?
So there's really three reasons. The first is that this facility is pushing over 30 years old, and most wastewater treatment plants last about 20 is their life expectancy. So we're above and beyond that by quite a ways. So we're just starting to run out of steam with everything. They treat not caustic material, but it's just wastewater is just kind of corrosive in general. So the age of it is the big one. We have to meet certain CDPHE and EPA standards, so this will set us up to do that into the future and now. And we need the capacity, so we're just kind of running out of the ability to treat any more water than we currently do. So we need to make sure that for the future we can continue to take in that water.
Yeah, absolutely. And the CDPHE stands for the Colorado Department of Health and Education. Environment. I knew that. And then the EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency,
Correct.
Right? Okay. So how often are you in contact with these agencies in terms of the public health and testing with the wastewater treatment facility?
So we do monthly testing on all of our water, and that all gets sent to the state, which is the CDPHE, on a monthly basis. And then they come and inspect us once a year, and the EPA is just kind of the overseer of everybody, but the state kind of has the final say in everything.
All right, awesome. Well, what can the community expect when this project is complete?
They can expect us to be able to put out the cleanest water that we possibly can into the river, and that's really our goal.
Nice. So they might not physically see the wastewater treatment expansion, but they'll notice it in the quality of their services.
Well, they should. In the end, they shouldn't have to worry about anything moving forward. It's one of those services that you just don't really think about, as long as you can turn on your tap and it goes away. And that's really what our goal is, to kind of be the unsung hero that they don't really see and hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. If they don't have to think about it, it's not a problem,
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what do you think you'll be most proud of once this project is complete?
I think probably bringing a state-of-the-art facility to not only the town, but the operators and the people that need to run it for the foreseeable future. We're hoping to get another 25, 30 years out of it as well.
All right, awesome. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris.
Okay.
And we're going to hop over to our next guest.
Awesome. Thank you.
Now we are talking to Craig Ellingson, our Parks Operations Manager. Hi, Craig. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we'll hop right into it. So you're the project manager for primarily the Chimney Park lighting installation project and then the Chimney Park turf replacement project. So we'll get into that in a second. But first, I wanted to ask you, you got your start working for the town's recreation department, right?
I did, yes.
So why did you make the shift over to parks in the first place?
Wanted to try something new. Hadn't been involved in parks a whole lot, and had spent a lot of time in recreation and programming, and operations management. So I wanted to move over to parks and learn a little bit about parks.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
had the opportunity to go over as a park supervisor for about a year and a half, and then the previous parks manager retired, and was fortunate enough to assume that role.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
And so here I am.
Nice. Okay, so moving on to Chimney Park. So Chimney Park was annexed into Windsor in 1979, and Zero Street was renamed Chimney Park Drive in the 90s. Why do you think this area is so historically significant to the residents of Windsor?
Well, I think it's just been a focal point for a long time for athletic programming. I grew up in Windsor, and when I was a kid, we didn't have Eastman Park. We did our soccer programming over at Chimney Park. So we did practices on the north end, on the other side of the pool. Then we played games on the 3 baseball fields that were there. So
cool.
I think that historically that's been the focal point for athletic endeavors because that's all that the town had.
Yeah, so not only does the community have a personal connection to it, but you do as well.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
so cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, can you give us a little bit of the history behind the name Aaron Cook Fields?
Yeah, so after the tornado, the Rockies organization, not just for Windsor, but in a lot of areas and places, they would provide funds to help build or renovate fields. So after the tornado came, which I was not working for the town at the time, the tornado obviously devastated a lot of that area. And so Aaron Cook, who was a Rockies pitcher at the time, provided some funds to help the town renovate and revitalize that space. And so
Very
as
cool.
a thank you to that field was dedicated as Aaron Cook Field.
And that dedication just took place recently, right?
No, that was quite some time ago. I
Okay.
don't remember the exact timeline on that, but it would have happened right after that renovation
Awesome.
happened.
Okay, cool. So with that, there are kind of several construction projects that are surrounding these fields. So why are these projects happening right now, and why are they happening throughout the summer? Can you explain the timing of the projects a little bit more?
So right now we're currently doing renovation of fields 2 and 3 for turf. Last year we did Aaron Cook Field, and so that is a fully functional artificial turf space that can be used for multiple sports, whether that's baseball, softball. We had our first adult soccer program out there over the winter months.
Nice.
So fields 2 and 3 are also getting the turf renovation done. In conjunction with that, as you mentioned earlier, there is the field lighting project that is happening to illuminate those playing spaces to increase the longevity of programming time on those spaces, particularly during the winter months where it gets dark really, really early here. Gives us the opportunity to program like we would during the summer months where it's lighter out. So the desire to do that was a number of different reasons. Our community is growing, and the demand that we have for not only programming baseball and softball, but also other sports has increased with the population increase. As we grow, our hope is to have more facilities to take care of, and having artificial turf allows us to be more versatile in the things that we do for maintenance. My role as the parks manager is to maintain all of those athletic spaces and our staff to maintain those spaces. The rec side then does the programming, and so being able to have a playable surface that is almost a year-round opportunity lends to both maintenance and programming at the same time.
Yeah, totally. I feel like a lot of the big reasons people are moving to Windsor right now is because of the programming.
Sure, absolutely.
And the just the things we have available in Windsor, right? And
It's
so,
phenomenal.
yeah, it's definitely a really important space to preserve and keep up and running. And so one of those pieces is the Chimney Park pool. So I know that there are the renovations going on this summer that you're not primarily the project manager for, but it's in the area. So
Right.
could you tell us a little bit about the renovations, more specifically the slide, and how it's served our community over the years?
Yeah, so the singular renovation that's happening at Chimney Park will be the slide. The slide that is there is 25 years old. It did outlast the tornado, but it has come to its useful life now. So the plan is to replace that with 2 additional slides and be able to make it more viable and safe to use. So that will be happening within the coming weeks. And the intent is to have that done and finished before the pool opens Memorial Day. With all construction projects, there's always hiccups and things that come along that can delay things, but the hope is to have it for the normal Memorial Day opening, have that slide ready to go.
Awesome. Nice. Well, we're looking forward to it. But in the meantime, we'll just keep chugging away and watching the progress.
Absolutely. It's fun to see.
Yeah, it really is, and it's so exciting. And having people like you in here in the studio is really awesome. So that way we can learn more about these projects.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Craig. We appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Now I have Public Works Engineering Superintendent Curtis Templeman joining me here today. How are you, Curtis?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good, thanks.
Good.
So Curtis is in charge of a pretty big project this year that's built out, kind of broken out into 3 different projects. So you have the backlot water replacement project, you have the backlot sewer replacement project, and then you have the overall construction of those lots.
Yep.
Can you explain the 3 prongs of those projects and why they're so necessary right now?
So they're actually one big project. We broke it out into 3s just simply for budget reasons, and those utilities are currently have reached their service life. And with this level of investment on the surface, we didn't want to go in there, do all this work on top, and then start having issues with our utilities beneath. So the water line will get relocated. It'll be brought up to current standards and converted from a ductile iron pipe to a PVC pipe, and then the sewer line will follow that project. And same, it'll go from a clay tile to a PVC.
All right, nice. And you've been a town employee for almost 20 years. What has it been like seeing the town transform during your time with Windsor?
It's been a whirlwind for sure. A lot going on, and just day by day, just taking one day at a time, trying to stay in front of our projects and doing the best for our citizens.
So, like I mentioned, this was a significant project that's happening this year. What kind of considerations did you have to have with the downtown area in particular? There we go.
Yeah, anytime you do work in a downtown area, you're dealing with a lot of business owners. You have residents down there. Fortunately, we have a DDA down there, or downtown development area out there, and we've been working with that director to try to communicate with everyone that's directly to the downtown area. And this project's kind of come about through the zoning change that was voted upon by our citizens. And so we've been working on the design for the last couple of years, and we're really looking forward to getting to work on this project.
Yeah. So I know that this will come during the summertime, and with that comes a lot of summer events. So what do you kind of anticipate residents to see over the summer, and how are you working maybe with the WDA or other organizations or other departments to kind of alleviate that maybe parking pressure that people might anticipate?
Yeah, for sure. We so first of all, just as we have our events, I would just recommend to our citizens to try to get there a little earlier. Parking is going to be a lot tougher this year, unfortunately, because we're doing this lot, and next year it'll be a lot better because this lot's done. But kind of give yourself more time to find a parking spot, and then expect to walk a little bit further. We're working with the WDDA, like I said, just to try to do the best job communicating, at least to the business owners. We've reached out to comms. We're going to reach out to our event staff and try to get that information out there. So just really take that opportunity to get on our website, jump on Project Connect, and look for those updates to kind of get an idea how things are going down there. So
with this project, it came from a resident-led initiative. You kind of mentioned that. So what was the desired outcome of the project, and how will this benefit residents, especially because this is a project that might have a lot of eyes on it?
So, I mean, it's a parking lot, so it's not too exciting. And we kind of geek out a little bit with different projects and stuff like that. But we're I don't have the number of stalls that we're going to be adding down there, but it'll definitely beautify that area. We'll have landscaping. We're actually going to add 4 of your faster charge chargers for electric vehicles for anyone that's visiting with electric cars, so they'll be able to charge their car and go downtown and enjoy the amenities that we have down there for everyone. So, but yeah, just kind of, once we get started, and just kind of expect construction.
Yeah, I've been hearing murmurs for as long as I can remember about people talking about backlots.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So it's probably a big relief that it's finally happening.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure a lot of staff has been getting a lot of questions over the past couple of years, especially our town board. So anything else you think we should know about the project over the summer?
No, I don't. Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. Just be courteous to those that are working down there. They're working. for us, for the town. We'll have a contract with them, and I just really try to build a partnership with them. So if we can kind of give them the time and the space, they'll be able to get things done quicker, and we'll be able to get access to those parking lots sooner.
Awesome. Well, we're really looking forward to it. Thank you, Curtis, for your time and answering our
Thank you.
questions.
Yeah.
Like Curtis said, you can find all of our information on windsorprojectconnect.com. But this concludes our CIP section for this What's the Word Windsor podcast, and we'll throw it back to Maddie.
Thank you so much for watching What's the Word Windsor. If you have more questions about the capital improvement plan or the projects on the plan, visit windsorprojectconnect.com. Thank you so much for watching, and you can find us on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms.